Good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 25 of Legal Tech Live. With me today is, today is just me and our guest, Tom Martin. Ivan Rakelin, my co-host, is in transit, leaving social media marketing world. He may or may not show up. We'll see. We certainly wish he was here. For those who haven't listened before, I'm Nick Rishwain. I am co-host and co-founder of Legal Tech Live with Ivan Rakelin. And this is our 25th recorded episode. And I have been in the legal tech community for about 7 years and started this show with Ivan about almost 2 years ago now. Almost 2 years ago now. So we are legal tech evangelists who love to hear about those who are doing interesting, fun, and exciting things, advancing the legal industry through technology. And our guest today, Tom Martin. Tom is a California attorney, currently living in Vancouver, and he is the founder and attorney at Foresight Legal. Tom is a graduate of Yale University and UCLA School of Law. While he and Tom, this is interesting. You and I have something in common here. While in law school, he externed for the Honorable Stephen Reinhart of the United States Court of Appeals in the Ninth Circuit. He's also been published in many national law journals. I externed for the Honorable Consuelo Callahan, who was with the Third District Court of Appeals at that time when I was in law school. She's now at the Ninth Circuit. So I thought that was interesting when I saw that you had and I did an externship at that time. You're the founder at Foresight Legal, and you're also the founder of what we're here to talk about today is LawDroid, which is a chatbot for entrepreneurs, which helps them to incorporate their business. And it is a chatbot that is currently available on Messenger, on Facebook Messenger. And tell me, that's a rather simple explanation for who Tom is. It's the bio summary. Tell me about you, Tom, and how you came to law school, the legal practice, and now the more entrepreneurial and technology-based entrepreneurial efforts.
Well, first, Nick, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm a big legal tech aficionado myself, obviously, and I really love what's happening in this area right now. It's really burgeoning. Like, the interest is getting there, and it's a big change from like 5-10 years. 10 years non-existent, and 5 years it was getting there. But yeah. Right now I'm working on LawDroid, and it's a Facebook Messenger chatbot where you can answer a few questions on your smartphone, be able to incorporate in California. And so I guess the backstory to that is I've worked in a lot of different areas. When I first got out of law school, I worked in the entertainment business. And I worked in a talent agency, and everything you saw in Swimming with Sharks, that actually happens. And so that was a great experience in retrospectively, because the skills that you get about not taking no for an answer and really driving to get the results that you need to get, and working your way creatively to get there, those were really great life lessons, even though the experience at the time was a little insane.
Right. As I've heard from the very few people that I know who have worked in the entertainment industry, it is a little bit insane. But that's interesting that you can now retrospectively look at it and say, hey, what I learned there was really great information to have for my future.
Yeah, it definitely is. When I grew up, I went to Catholic school, all boys Catholic high school, then ended up going to Yale. But I grew up in East LA, which is like this part called El Sereno, which is just the northeast part of Los Angeles. And so the schools I went to were kind of removed from there. The high school was in this place called La Cañada Flint Ridge, which is, a very nice area. of town. They like ride horses there and all that kind of stuff. And so it was definitely like a John Hughes movie, like the other side of the tracks kind of
Oh, cool.
experience for me. And so then, going to work in the industry kind of gave me the practical chops that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I ended up going back to work as a lawyer, and I did the straight ahead stuff. I worked as a litigation attorney, cut my teeth, going to court, defending depositions against a partner, like on my first day on the job. my boss put
Wow.
my boss put me into like a series of depositions in this kind of coordinated case that had to do with cancer caused by exposure to some toxins.
Wow, that's a big case for your first day on the job.
Yeah, and so he put me in defending depositions against his partner. He had a white shoe firm in Century City in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Fred Ufkus was the guy's name.
Okay.
Great guy, and I learned a lot, but it was trial by fire. And so I've gone through a lot of the same things that the people listening have who are lawyers. Went through working for different bosses at different firms. Learned some skills here and there. And but I've always had a love for technology.
Okay.
Even when I first got out of law school, I designed my own website, which the idea was to do immigration filings online.
Oh, all right.
But this was really early on. This was
really early on in internet, in the days of the internet. It sounds like, right?
Yeah, in the old days. This was
That's right.
This was 2000. This was 2000. Okay. And so I put up the site. I knew enough how to code that, and then I coded a form, and I even tried to put some conditional logic into it. So programmatically, like it was working, but the problem was getting people to find it because it was early on, and it was kind of a demographic where they weren't going to look on the internet for that kind of solution in 2000. So it was all like not going to fit, right at the time.
Sure.
But
and people, like you said, people probably in 2000 were not even searching the internet for that kind of data. I was thinking in 2000, I was in college at the time, and I'm thinking, what we used it for was pretty minor. Maybe we were playing games and maybe writing a few papers that I could find some reliable data on, a reliable site that was going to be there tomorrow, that you would be able to do some research and use that in a paper. So yeah, I would be surprised. Did a lot of people find that document online at that time?
No.
Okay.
No, absolutely not.
All right.
Amazing
how things have changed, isn't it?
It really is, and that's I think that's why there's interest now, is because things have become so easy and cheap and straightforward in a way, like in a lot of ways. I mean, I know for some people it's still not, but there's a lot of resources out there. I mean, you have Google, Amazon with all of those services where you pay like, pennies for terabytes of information.
Mm-hmm.
And you just pay for your use. It's making it really easy for people to get in there and try to do their own thing.
Yeah. And so sounds like you've been a coding lawyer, like our friend, you probably know her. She's now an author, and I'm really excited for her, but Mary Redzik, I don't know if you're familiar with Mary, but
Yep.
she has been a guest on here as a blogger and as the product marketing manager for Mara's case, and she has taught herself to code, and it sounds like you had become a coding lawyer very early on. And is that, I'm sure that skill was necessary for coding a chatbot.
Yeah, and by the way, I had the pleasure of meeting Mary when I was in San Francisco.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just like a month or two ago.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I adore her. I think she's great. Had the pleasure of meeting her last year at Legal Tech West Coast, and she's just she's one of the happy people in the legal tech industry, and that goes a long way with me.
Yeah.
I love a person who's happy-go-lucky and enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah. So it was a pleasure, talking with her, like with you, where you're on the same wavelength, and that's a rarity.
It is.
I
It
think with this
is.
kind of stuff. But what were we talking about?
Yeah, I was saying that you coded quite early. You were really advanced for the legal industry at that time, because even my coding today is pretty basic HTML knowledge. So you're really advanced in the legal industry as a whole. I'd say you're pretty advanced if you know any coding.
Yeah, and at the time I was, but now for coding the chatbot, and for a lot of other things, unless you can code in Angular or R or Python, which I can't do.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, then so what I do with that is I hire people on
Yeah.
to do that part of it, and I focus on the design and content.
Okay.
So the stuff that keeps us out of trouble and asks the right questions.
Which is so that's good to know. I mean, I think that when you do, in my day job with experts.com, which is what I think of as the early legal tech, right? We were a website that eliminated the need for a expert witness broker, and even though those of us with legal backgrounds who are part of the company, you still have to hire somebody on for development for anything that's really substantive these days, because coding has changed so significantly. So that's interesting to see that you've had to hire people to do Python and Angular and R and all that types of work. And when I was playing with the chatbot before we started the interview, so it seems like you are then doing the legal questions and answers, or you're probably designing that information. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I think that it's a very good skill for lawyers to have, to at least learn how to code in HTML and
Mm-hmm.
CSS. Just the basics, because when you have that down, other things, they come a little more naturally, or at least when you're talking to a developer, you can kind of get where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, because of my past experience, when I talk to developers and they're telling me, well, this is going to take this long, I could kind of smell when, it's off, because I know it shouldn't take that long.
Yeah, you could smell when they were gonna do the legal overbilling type of thing, only in the coding side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
throw a bunch of buzzwords at you. You're like, oh, okay, just do it.
The amount of research we have to do in a case like this, it's going to take us 100 hours. Really? For
Right.
this? Okay.
Really? Because I heard you just, JP Morgan just dumped it into their computer and said 360,000 hours
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. This seems like you're just gonna put together a basic living trust. I don't understand why it's
Right.
going to be so expensive. Yeah. So and I think you're right. I think that goes across the board. Big part of what I spend my time doing with expert witnesses as well as attorneys is telling them to get involved in social media, where they really kind of need to be in the future. That's seems to have become a bigger part of my day-to-day work, and that's a good entry for them as well. I think if you are trying to get technologically savvy in knowing some coding and knowing how to use all of the features on a particular, even start with a social media platform, get used to it, get used to the features and what they do. These are things that lawyers, I think, need to be doing because, as we've seen now, 26 states require some form of tech competency. And these types of items will certainly help you to understand what your state bar is requiring as far as tech competency, because
Yeah.
you can't do a lot of damage if you're practicing these things or using them but it can help you a lot in as far as becoming competent technologically. And it seems that you are significantly, as I've found with almost everybody, including our guest, we do have a viewer, Jay Giuliano. I don't know if you've met Jay. He's with PadTech. He's a former guest and have been a large supporter of the show. And he's visiting with us right now. You can see him in the chat bar if you have that up. But what I've found with most attorneys turned legal tech is that they do have some background in tech, or they've forced themselves to learn some tech in order to do what they're doing today. Tell me, before we go off onto that tangent, which I feel like I could go on forever, tell us about tell us about the chatbot. So why did you see it as a necessity, and where are you? Let's start with the development. When did you decide to create LawDroid?
Right. So the inspiration for LawDroid, I have to thank Joshua Browder.
Oh, cool.
Like I like to keep up on stuff, just always reading about this area and the space. And of course, the article jumped out at me back in, I don't know, around the same time last year, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, about the 160,000 parking tickets that he had gotten people out of in London.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I was gonna say for our listeners or viewers, can you tell us who Joshua Browder is? He made the do not pay chatbot.
Yeah, he made the do not pay chatbot. He is now, I think, a sophomore at Stanford.
Could be
or maybe still a freshman. Wait. Yeah, he would be a freshman.
Oh wow, he's that early? So young man who, and his do not pay was for helping people get out of traffic tickets in the UK, I think in England and Wales, I believe. It may be broader than that now.
Yeah, so like a chatbot, you go in there, you'd answer a few questions about the kind of parking ticket, where you were parked. You would ask you some issue-oriented questions like, what color was the line on the, sidewalk? Was the parking meter broken and stuff like that? And then based on those issues, it could raise certain defenses, and then it would autofill like this is my understanding because I haven't used it for, a ticket in London,
Right.
but that it would autofill like a complaint or an appeal of the parking ticket. And just the sheer numbers, to throw up 160,000, and I believe the figure is like 64%,
Success rate, huh?
Success rate.
Wow.
Which, for a bot is not bad.
No, that's pretty impressive, really, for a bot. And
yeah.
It sounds like that served as some inspiration for LawDroid.
Yeah, so I saw that and I thought, this is going to change things. This is really going to be, something new and interesting, and a way of like massively scaling access to legal services for people that either, won't get it because the dollar value is such that it just doesn't make sense, like parking tickets. There's a difficulty there in getting service. And so anyways, maybe incorporating isn't the first logical thing, because it's not like it's solving an access to justice problem. I mean, we're talking about startups and entrepreneurs, but for those entrepreneurs that can't afford a lawyer, there's still quite a few of those.
Yeah.
And I thought that that entrepreneurs would be more likely to be early adopters, and they're scraping things together and they want to find things that are affordable so that they can get their business started. And so I decided to focus on that niche. Another reason was because it's simple.
Yeah.
Like I had mentioned before, the immigration filings thing, that project. And I think, one of the reasons for that not working is that it's extremely complex. If you do a decision tree of immigration, it can go like in a whole bunch of different directions.
Right.
but when you create articles of incorporation, it's, you know, pretty standard.
Standard. Yeah, and as Susskind, I'm reading a book by Richard Susskind right now, and he talks about items like this, standardizing certain legal services, and rather than he kind of breaks it up from rather than commoditization to, you know, it's not necessarily commoditization, but it's many of these things, articles of incorporation, pretty standard. But can be costly for an entrepreneur. Now, it's been a long time since I've done any articles of incorporation myself, but I want to say it was $1,000 or $2,000 at the law firm that I worked for, and this was years ago. And when I was playing around with LawDroid this morning, it looked like you guys had some $100 fee or something like that. Is that right? Tell me about the pricing.
Sure. So the way it's set up is actually a freemium model.
Okay.
So it is, other than paying the state filing fee, which we have no control over,
right?
Which is that's $99.
Okay.
So that's the state filing fee. But other than that, you could go through it and not pay anything.
Okay.
It could be absolutely free.
Maybe it was because I chose to have you as my person for service of process.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay.
there's I believe 3 upsells that come up during the process. One is, do you want us to file it for you?
Okay.
You know, and if we file it for you, we charge a fee for that. If you want us to be your registered agent, charge a fee for that. And then we have a compliance program. This is the royal we. Like, I have a compliance program there.
Right.
And that basically says, look, you put all this effort into creating your corporation. You want to keep it so that you don't expose yourself to personal liability. And it's like it has a drip campaign that just reminds people about stuff and keeping in compliance and doing the information filing, you know, every year.
Okay.
And so that's recurring revenue. The registered agent is recurring revenue. And if they opt in, great. There's some money there. If they don't, they go through it. They get that for free. We still have their contact information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we could follow up and maybe get something later on.
And even if they were not to use the freemium, the premium portion of your service, you have then effectively done some access to justice good in addition to I mean,
no,
because
I think
they just had it done for free and they got their articles of incorporation, and that problem is one, you know, that's one less thing on the entrepreneur's to-do list, and it didn't cost them $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever the price is for an attorney now to do articles of incorporation.
Yeah, I mean, it could be up to 1,000, but what I like about the solution is it kind of scales up to where they need it. So like if they're like somebody who really doesn't have the resources and they just want to get started, it could handle that, and it could provide that kind of access for them. But if they can afford to take some stuff off their plate, it gives them that opportunity too.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really push it on them, but you know, if they want it, they can have it.
Very cool. And I like that you also informed. I spent about 5 minutes on the chatbot this morning. I like that you also informed me that, hey, you know, there's going to be every year there's an $800 tax if you're incorporated. Even it doesn't happen on the first year, but it will happen on the second year, even if you're not making money, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think that
little bit of knowledge that because maybe then somebody finds out that maybe incorporation isn't the way for me to go. Maybe an LLC is more appropriate.
Right, and so that kind of input, to me, that's what's so cool about chatbots, is that you could feed in that kind of domain knowledge,
right,
and inform, you know, the user about that in a way that seems really natural. It seems like, you know, almost a conversation that you would have with the guy or gal who's drafting it right in front of you.
Right.
Well, you know that there's this, you know, minimum franchise tax. Do you want to still do it? So it's a critical part of a chatbot is at the beginning you have disqualification questions,
Okay.
you know, and so it's going to ask you, are you trying to set up a charity? And then if you say yes, and it says, hey, I'm not programmed to do that yet.
Okay.
Are you trying to, set up a bank or whatever? And so that way it avoids setting something up for someone it clearly shouldn't, be doing it for.
Right.
And then it also informs you about the fees and the taxes.
Yeah, that's good information, and I realized that I had, in order to continue on and test it out, I had to choose that I was going to, I was looking to incorporate, which I wasn't. I might add at the time, but I wanted to test it out so that
Right.
I'd have something to talk to you about. But it did ask if are you trying to do a nonprofit, are you trying to do a bank, or are you trying to do, I think there are one or two other items, and then said we're not, because we're not programmed to do that right now.
Yeah.
And the ease of use was readily, it was very clear that, okay, then I need to answer the question this way if I want to move on. And so I am looking to incorporate. What do you see in the future of, well, let me hold off on the future right now. In the present, it's online? Are you having people pay to have you, are you getting some income off this, some revenue off of the LawDroid right now? Are people choosing to have you as the registered agent, or have LawDroid as the registered agent for service of process and those types of things?
So far, it's been a lot of in-crowd testing.
Okay.
Like a lot of people in the legal tech space that have been testing it. I've had over 300 people jump on there and use it. And so that's been pretty cool to get that attention. In terms of paying customers, it's not quite there yet.
Okay.
I've been marketing it and testing different ways of getting there with Facebook ads, AdWords. Some of them, like AdWords, it can be, it can work, but the question is at what price, right?
You bet.
Yeah, so I haven't found a solution yet that's really cost effective.
Okay.
One, it's more cost effective just talking to people, and getting the word out and talking to groups that are focused in entrepreneurship and, getting it out socially, which kind of makes sense because it's on Facebook Messenger. So,
right.
It's a social platform.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great point. So it's already built into Messenger, and it does seem that those of us in the legal tech community are active on the social platforms, and now it's a matter of how do you let entrepreneurs know that this is available to them. So what would you see then as a future for the chatbot? Do you see expanding it beyond just the incorporation offering?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. And by the way, one thing that I'm proud of is that starting out on Facebook Messenger, right now it has like 1 billion monthly active users, and it's still scaling up.
Still scaling up. Yeah.
But that choice, I think it was a good choice because I could really see who's using it, and be able to market to the people that I could see demographically are using it, and market to their interests and stuff like that. And a lot of the bots that kind of came out around the same time, they've all since then transitioned over to Facebook Messenger.
Oh, okay.
So I think they saw the promise in it too. As for the future, definitely want to expand into other areas. I mean, I've already put together a divorce bot that can answer simple questions and kind of point people in the right direction.
Okay.
Another one that I'm looking at down the road is possibly, answering tenant questions about, gripes they have with their landlord, and it would create a complaint letter.
Okay.
To the landlord. I mean, there's all kinds of applications for this.
And would you see growing it beyond California, or do you think that the bots would have to be state specific? as far as what they were. So would there have to be a LawDroid California, then a LawDroid Nevada, or a LawDroid, or could LawDroid, as it currently exists, handle different states as well?
So, for example, let's say tenant bot, right, that handles like landlord-tenant problems. That you could expand it to different states. It's just a matter of branching it out at the beginning of the conversation, where it's like, you know, what state are you in? Of course, that it's going to require a lot of work to do that.
Sure.
And I started with California because I'm from California, but it's also a pretty big marketplace with 40 million people. So it was a good place to test. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of promise with this to roll out services to people that can't normally afford it, especially when, you know, Legal Services Corporation may lose funding, and you know, people still need the help.
They still need the help, and it's one of those things that I think many of us are hoping that technology will cure the access to justice problem, because there's still a big portion of citizens in our country who are not getting that. Even with pro bono and legal aid and things like that, it just seems like, you know, for an issue small like not so small, but an issue like incorporation or paying traffic tickets and other landlord tenant issues, they still haven't, you know, even it seems that legal aid types of agencies just aren't equipped to handle that type of work.
Yeah.
And so individuals still need that type of assistance. And I was wondering, you know, I know you're licensed in California, you've practiced in California. I assume that's why yes, it is a big market. I'm assuming that's why it worked for you in California. And I didn't know what kind of, you know, trying to do incorporation in other states, would that have to be tied to a lawyer in another state? You know, what would the requirements there be? Are there any ethical or licensing considerations with this type of technology?
Well, I really have to thank, you know, like LegalZoom for pioneering this particular question, because they've had the bank to go out there and litigate this issue.
Okay.
In jurisdictions where there was a question mark, like I believe North Carolina was at least one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the issue has been resolved more or less across the board, that the practice of law does not include self-help online products. Now, there's of course a big proviso to that. You have to have your disclaimers on there, of course. And as you saw, I do. You know, the very first thing is like, hey, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a smart robot, but I'm not a lawyer.
Right. I did see that. That was the first thing, that this does not constitute legal advice.
Right. And so I think as long as you disclaim, as long as you are intelligent about communicating with people about what they're getting, and they know that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because they're talking to a chatbot. But I think that issue is kind of resolved, and that it's going to be fine to, you know, roll it out in different states. It's just a matter of getting that, you know, design and programming in on the front end to handle that.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, and one of the things is that I actually work with this really great company called ROG Legal Insurance.
Okay.
And so one of the things that I do with California clients is I provide legal advice to California clients.
Okay.
And it's by phone, and that's one of the things that makes it so awesome, is I could do it from Vancouver because I'm just providing phone advice. And I provide it to, there's tens of thousands of members in Southern California, and I have 3 other lawyers that help me currently provide phone advice to California residents.
Okay.
And every day we're getting like 40, 50 calls, sometimes 60 to 70 calls a day.
Wow.
And it's all across the board. It could be like, hey, my neighbor, the fence has fallen down, the neighbor won't agree to fix it with me. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? California Civil Code Section 841 you have a 50-50 split. So there's all these issues that I deal with day in, day out. That's one of them. There's criminal questions, there's tax questions, there's family law questions, there's a whole gamut. And the thing is from my experience providing this service, I've actually been able to develop, these are specific needs that people actually have.
Right.
These are questions that real people actually ask about.
Right.
And so we're going into, I think, the third year now. It's been two years plus, 3 months that I've been doing it. And so the domain expertise to apply that to a chatbot and then automate it is what I'm really excited about.
That is cool. And I guess I failed to mention when we first started the interview is you're really already practicing in what some term as new legal, right? I mean, you're practicing legal online or away from the attorney who you go into their office and you wait to see them and then they go, and you're already kind of in that new or future legal space. And it sounds like that has given you the opportunity to see some of these recurring themes that could be answered in essence by technology.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been working this way for a while. I haven't really been actively engaged in the discussion until recently, until like last November. Did I get out there? I went to TBD Law, I got invited by Nicole Skippers of ROG and went to TBD Law and met Sam Glover and Aaron Street, and they're like awesome.
Right.
And again, you have all these people on the same wavelength, sharing ideas. And so that kind of triggered me to get out there and become, more vocal about this space. But, my firm has been working in kind of the virtual space for the past 10 years practically. Stephanie Kimbrough was a huge inspiration in that regard.
Right. And it's great to hear that lawyers are working in it, doing more of the virtual, because most of the lawyers that I deal with on a daily basis, separate from my hobbies like LegalTechLIVE and those types of things, most of them are still doing the old style firm, and there are a lot of other opportunities out there for lawyers today. So it's very cool and in fact, one of our previous guests, Hire an Esquire, is encouraging that sort of new legal perspective. And so it's good to have a guest on here who is not only advancing or innovating in the legal technology space, but who's also practicing in, as you termed it, virtual law. Oh, look at that! You, it looks like you have. Let's put that online for every. Oh, excellent! A LawDroid mug, excellent. And are these available for purchase for friends of or users of?
They will be.
They will be.
Check into LawDroid.com.
Yeah, excellent. You've got to sell the merchandise if you have the chance. And what is, we're about 40 minutes in here. We can go a couple more minutes. What haven't I asked about that you think somebody who is going to go use the bot might need to know?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that comes to mind is, and I had the good fortune to give a presentation on AI and Chatbots 101 in Seattle with Mary Jutin at Evolve Law, and
Nice.
Dan Lear was there and Joshua Lennon was there, and I'm trying to learn from them because those guys know how to do it.
Right.
And so I gave a Darwin talk, and one of, to answer your question, one of the things I think people should keep in mind is don't expect everything. A lot of people, they hear about chatbots, then they check it out, and it's not everything that they ever expected from AI. It's not one of the movies that we've seen where, you're talking to this like totally human thing and it's just doing everything that you want at the snap of your fingers.
Right.
It's not going to be that way.
Right.
I call it the panacea objection.
Okay.
that, hey, it doesn't solve everything. And the thing is we're early on. It's going to be, it's not always going to work perfectly. It's going to, do its best, and sometimes it won't sound as natural as you would expect. As you saw from LawDroid, I admit that right now it's a pure logic tree, and it's like dun 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 dun, walks you through the questions. Now those are the questions you need to be asked, but it could be a little more natural. And actually right now I'm working on version 2, LawDroid 2.0. The first version has been hard coded to Facebook Messenger, so it only works with Facebook Messenger. And so now I'm generalizing that so that it will be able to spin up on Skype, on Slack, on all of the various chatbot platforms, and it will use natural language processing and machine learning so that like when it asks for your address, right? It could just say, what do you want to be the address, and you could just answer the whole thing as you normally would. You don't have to say city, state, and all that.
Right.
So it'll help it to be much more natural.
That's cool. So as you said, LawDroid 2.0 will incorporate some more natural language processing and machine learning that may make it more natural. Did I get that correct? Is that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah.
And kind of the third prong that I'm really excited about, which may not be as immediate, is a voice interface.
Oh, cool. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
And would you be able to choose? Would it be like your Siri interface? Would it be one voice, or would the user get to choose? Oh, I'd like to talk to her or to him, or how would that work?
That's a great question, Nick. Thank you for because my idea was like, oh, I'm trying to find the perfect voice for LawDroid, right?
Right.
So no, but that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
If you could pick, which is definitely doable.
Just a couple of options, maybe. Would you rather talk to Tina, or would you rather talk to Billy, or something like that? It could be, because that could make it kind of also fun. Oh no, I want to hear from this person. And
yeah, and maybe one user feels more comfortable talking to a female voice versus a male voice, right?
Male voice, exactly. Kind of what my thought was. There is some people, because people make that choice on going to an attorney. Well, it's a family law issue. Maybe I'd feel more comfortable with having a female attorney in this, or maybe I'd feel more comfortable having a male attorney in this other issue. And I thought maybe that's something that you could play with even from the bot voice sound.
Well, thank you for that.
My pleasure. And if you need me to be the voice, we'll talk about that.
we can discuss the royalties.
We'll discuss royalties for the use of my voice. Oh, man. That's great. That's very cool that it's going to have that. And that's what's so cool about the things that are happening in this space, is that some really fantastic advancements, and the legal industry has been slow to advance with the use of technology, slower than most. And there's some really fun stuff happening here, and that's sort of the whole point of the show, is to tell people about, look, there's some really fascinating things going on, and they don't all have to address some massively complex issue to still address a problem. Any other items that, aside from the LawDroid 2.0, that maybe a user might want to know? This is for those who are listening, maybe. This is LawDroid. It is a chatbot to help entrepreneurs incorporate their business in California. So is there anything else maybe that an entrepreneur may need to know about the chatbot? I feel like we covered a lot, but there may be a few items that I've missed.
Well, one thing I would say to the people that are watching, that maybe they're lawyers and they haven't really stepped into this space, or like hearing about it for the first time, or they've been interested in it but haven't really taken action in it.
Mm-hmm.
What I would really encourage what I'd really encourage you to do is to check out, there's one website called Chatfuel, okay?
Okay.
Chatfuel.com. And it is a very, very accessible version of making a chatbot. And I really encourage you to go there. You know, it's free, by the way. You just
Cool.
go there, you make, you know, a little bot on your own, have fun doing it, because it's so easy to make. They make it like really approachable. And, you know, within a couple of minutes, well, okay, within 15 minutes,
Okay.
you could have something that actually works, that you could play around with, and it's just infectious. You know, the excitement of that is, it's just a lot of fun. And it doesn't take knowing Python. It doesn't take, you know, knowing all these crazy computer languages or having to be a programmer. You could be a lawyer, you know, just like me, and you can go on there and you can make something that's fun. And it's all about the mindset, really, because it opens up your mind to the possibilities of what you can do. And yeah, so if anybody can take anything from this, I'd say, like, just go out there and have fun.
Yeah. And I think that's what led me, you know, I never practiced, but kind of what led me into, and, you know, my father, who had didn't want me to even go to law school, who's been a lawyer for 40 years, you know, and he didn't want me to go to it. And, you know, he thought he left it after, you know, after 10 years of actual full-time practice to do something else. And he thought there's things you could do out there where you could make more money, or have more fun and live a little bit more enjoyable life. And I think that what I really like to see for those lawyers who have come to the legal tech space is that they seem to be pretty passionate about what they're doing and really enjoying what they're doing. And I think that's what's made this show so much fun for me, is to see them doing these things that, and they weren't all unhappy practicing law, but they seem to really really be having a good time in the legal tech space.
Yeah.
And that brings a lot of joy for me. And my friend Nicole Abood, I don't know if you know Nicole at her podcast, but she always I'll text her about, when one of the shows went great, and she's like, oh, I think you really like this person. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, I get fed in a way talking to these people that's really exciting for me. You know, it's a lot of fun for me. So I get really excited when I see somebody who's really enjoying what they're doing. So I really do appreciate you coming on and telling us about LawDroid. Tell everybody where to find LawDroid. Tell them how they can get in touch with you and where they can find LawDroid, and any contact information you wish to share.
Sure. So simply put, go to LawDroid.com.
Okay.
And you'll find the site. And there's also a blog on there where I blog about, you know, different skills that you can work on. Just recently about, you know, keeping clients happy, net promoter score, and I also talk about, you know, AI and machine learning and chatbots.
Excellent.
You can follow me on Twitter at LawDroid1.
Okay.
And you know, don't be afraid to just drop me a message. I'd love to talk. Do a lot of Skype coffees, you know, where just jump on Skype and have coffee and talk to people. So
nice. And that's what we kind of think of this show as, is sort of, you know, early on people were asking, you know, how do I get prepared? And I'd have to tell them over and over, look, you're coming on to talk about, it's not some hard-hitting journalism thing where we're going to really needle you. We want you to have fun and tell us about your product. That's what we want.
Well, now you tell me. I was sweating beforehand.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. If you had watched any other ones, you're probably going to find out that we're not exactly coming on the attack. But those conversations seem to have disappeared. I think people are getting used to the fact that we're here to promote, not to be attack dogs. And you can also, which I would recommend, is go over to your Messenger app and type in LawDroid. Check it out. Play around with it. And if you're an entrepreneur who's looking to incorporate in California, Just go, yeah, you can go to LawDroid.com. You can talk with Tom at LawDroid1 on Twitter, and but check out the chatbot. Check out LawDroid by typing it into the search bar. Is how I found it on Messenger. I don't know if there's any other ways to find it on Messenger.
No, right now you just type in the name to Messenger.
Okay.
But also through the website, if you go to LawDroid.com, you just click on the big blue button that says Start Incorporating, and it'll take you to Messenger. So just in case people are more comfortable with that.
If you're more comfortable on desktop, I just happened to test it through mobile. So again, our guest today was Tom Martin, founder of LawDroid. You can find them at LawDroid.com. Tom, thanks for coming in last minute. I really appreciate it, and we'll hope you come back in the future and tell us about 2.0 and 3.0 and all that.
Well, thank you, Nick, and yeah, I would love to.
Excellent. Great. And thanks again. Everybody, thank you for watching. For those of you who watch the replay, we appreciate your support. Thanks for sharing it out on social, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.